Hey, how's it going, everyone? My name is Jose Garcia, and in this video, I'm going to show you guys what this little assemble command does in NX. They recently added this command, and quite frankly, for the longest time, I haven't really used it because I've been used to the old, uh, you know, assemble command, which I believe was called add component. But recently I've begun using it, and it is kind of useful for certain things. I'm still going to stick with the add component, but I figured that, I might as well just show you guys how this command works. So if you are in NX, you can just go ahead and hit this command up here like so. And in vanilla NX, it at least throws you into a new assembly. Okay. Now, the beauty of this command is that you can come over here to open, located right there, and I can go over into my uh, little desktop that I have over here. And as you can see, I have some examples here. So I can actually bring all of these in at the same time. So I can go ahead and just, highlight all of these, and then I can go ahead and hit OK. Now, when I do that, it's going to take a couple of seconds, but it kind of spaces these out for you. I guess that's pretty nice. Now, one little criticism I have of this is that, I haven't really found a good way to lock the first component to the WCS of the assembly. And quite frankly, that's why I use the add component a lot. It's because the first one, I usually like to tie it to the WCS. But nonetheless, let's say that we're okay with, where this thing is right now. You can hold down the left mouse button and just kind of drag it around as you see. Nothing too bad, nothing too crazy, right? Now, this command does assume that you are pretty good at the assembly constraints that are in the add component or in the assembly constraints window. So you kind of have to know how they work, because depending on what you select, only certain constraints become available to you. Okay, so I'll move this right here approximately right and leave it there. Okay, I can select the item like so. I just click the top face there. And as you can see, it says, all right, well, I have two things you can do here. You can move it or you can fix it. In this case, fixing is totally acceptable to me, so I'll go ahead and hit fix. And then that's it. That's all you have to do. Now from here, you can go ahead and start selecting other things that are going to constrain to that fixed component. So for example, I want the bottom of this face here, right, to touch this top face here, like that. And as you can see, NX assumes that you want to do a touch and align, as you can see right there. That's the default constraint that it uses. But there are other ones you can use. For example, there's a distance here, so if that's the wrong constraint, you can change that. There's angle, and there's fix, right? It seems to have nailed this one, so we're not really going to worry too much about it. So now I'm going to go ahead and select the center of these holes. So I'll select this face here of the hole. That needs to line up with this face here on the hole like that. And as you can see, if you move your mouse over to the constraint, it did an infer center axes. Okay, so it inferred the axes of both of those and it lined them up. Now I'm just missing one final constraint here for this one. That one there is going to line up with the hole down here like that. And as you can see, the component is pretty much good to go. As a matter of fact, if you check your constraint navigator, assuming that you have the position column in here, it should tell you that it is fully constrained. As you can see, if you change your group by components, if you change this guy to group by components, you will see that the status is set to fully constrained. Okay, not too bad there. So, honestly, you can just keep going from here, right? So, for example, I have this pin here. It's a perfectly placed pin there. That pin is going to go in that hole there. So as you can see, I selected the surfaces. So it says, hey, you want to infer the center axes of those surfaces. And in this case, that is exactly what I want to do. Of course, I can now align this face here with this face here, just like that. Now, I know some of you are looking at this saying, something's not right there. When I train these classes, I purposely make this really big so we can run an interference analysis. So ignore the massive pin here, okay? And then from here, I can say, all right, well, the surface of this guy here, the center, actually, you know what? I don't want to do the center here. I want to pick the edge, right? So I'm going to change this guy, my selection filter, from face to no selection filter. So I'm going to go ahead and select this edge here. That edge needs to be concentric with this edge here. Now, if you know anything about NX, you know that the concentric command only uses edges. You can't use anything else with it. So for the reverse last constraint, I'm going to go ahead and flip that, right? Now it still has the degree of freedom of rotation, so instead of concentric, I think I'm going to go with align/lock. Of course, it went head first again, but I can flip the direction just like that. Okay. Now I have one more here, and this is where I think the drawback comes into play for this command. So for example, I want to select both of these faces here, like that. I don't really have that option. See that? I want to center that, some way, but I don't really have that capability. So unfortunately, at least for these more complicated commands like centered or showing the reference sets, this command is not up for that. So for now, I'm just going to go ahead and hit OK. There's really nothing else I can do here. All right. So at least I built most of this with the assembled constraint there. I'm sorry, the assembled command. But now I have to finish it off, and I have to go to my good old add component to finish it anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and hit add component there, and I can select the bracket here like that. And see, this is why I like this one a little bit better sometimes. You can see that the assembly location is set to WCS, which means the WCS of the parts is lined up with the WCS of the assembly. Of course, I'll just fly through this really quickly. I'll do a touch between this bottom face here and this face here. Of course, I'll do an align between this face here and that face there. I'll do an infer center axes, right? This face here and this face here. And that should fully constrain this piece. Of course, I could have done another infer center axis for this one instead of an align. 1,000 ways to skin a rabbit in NX, right? So I'll go ahead and hit OK. And then I'll go up here to assembly constraints. And that way I can use the centered 2 to 2. So these two faces here need to be in the middle of the plane that is inferred from those two faces of the bracket. And now I can do a touch and align and do an infer center axis. Now this is not a video to show you how to use this command. It was mainly just to show you how to use the assemble command. But as you can see, you still have to come back and use that command for things like that anyway. Of course, I'm missing these screws here. So for the purposes of this video, I'll go ahead and finish this one off. I'll go ahead and bring in 3 more screws like that. And I'll just go ahead and hit OK since I have remembered constraints turned on. So that one goes in there and in here and in here. And I just need to flip them one by one, just like that. Okay. And as you can see, our assembly is complete. So the assemble command, very useful for, basic assembly constraints. But I still find myself using the add component a little bit more often. Now, there is a customer default you can change so that when you bring in a component or when you start an assembly, it uses the add component instead of the assemble command. But I'll leave it for you to decide. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, feel free to let me know. Appreciate it. Thank you.